Welcome to Escape Imperium with Jimmy. And who do I have as a guest today is none other than David Hundeyin. And what would I say about David? I've known David for a while now, but it's been the white sense he's been missing. Basically, we've been looking for him for a while, but finally got to have him and interview him. He's been a friend over the years, and fantastic to have you on my podcast, David. Good to have you today.
Nice to reconnect with you after all this time.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's get into the hang of it. I know you did creative writing back in the day in the uni.
Yeah,
Am I right?
yeah.
You did creative writing, and you're one of those guys. I was wondering, creative writing. Well, modern Nigeria, what would you do with that? And
Um,
so basically, you've turned it around from creative writing into something spectacular. But my first question to you today, even though we're friends, is this: what do people misunderstand about you the most?
I think the most misunderstood thing about me is my motive for having taken on some of the work or the projects that I've decided to take on. Like nobody asked me to do it, I just did it. I think Nigeria is a place where, generally speaking, nothing goes for nothing. So people always assume that regardless of whatever social impact or whatever it is that one is having, there must always be some ulterior motive or some
True,
pecuniary
definitely.
motive behind it. So it's always a thing of somebody must be paying you, there must be something in it for you somewhere. And the fact that after all this time, no one has still been able to point to anywhere where any supposed benefactor is, that still hasn't eased those suspicions, because I think maybe rightfully so, Nigerians have just become very, very distrustful people for obvious
You
reasons.
you won't blame them because basically over the years we've had people come up and say, "Oh, we're fighting for the masses and fighting for the average Nigerian on the streets of Lagos," and you just find that someone somewhere is funding that particular fight, and it becomes selective over a period of time. So basically, the question there is why take up on this fight? Because basically, I'm going to do a chronicle of how well I know of this particular fight. No, I won't put it as a fight, but a venture you went on just on your own
Yeah.
without the backing of anybody, and which to me I find amazing, but with its challenges in the Nigerian context. Um, Take us through. I know you had the initial issue with Globocom, and coming down to also having issues with the 26-year-old woman that died, that relates with a certain head of the legislative arm right now. Quite a twist, quite a change in context, basically. So take me through that, because the first one I'm really interested in is you. I think you got a letter from the Indian PM back then, right?
Yes, I did.
As regards that issue. And I
Yeah.
was like, when I read the articles, then I was like, why? I want you to put me in your head right now and tell me what was going through your mind and your thoughts when you decided to take that first step, because I know that first step opened the door for so many. So take me through that.
So it wasn't even the first step, because I think the
Oh,
first step
okay.
had come like a year
Fantastic.
before that. But I think that was a story that sort of solidified my infamy, if you like, because
True.
um, what the reputation that I very deliberately set out to build when I started working as an investigative journalist was that I wanted to be known as the guy you go to when nobody else is going to touch that story.
Wow. That's a big
So
ask.
yeah, so maybe that story is too explosive. There are too many powerful people whose toes will be stepped on, or
True.
it's a
True.
very technically difficult, technically challenging story to put together. So those sort of X Files. That's what I want to do.
Okay, now I get it.
So
Okay.
yeah, so it was a very deliberate thing. It didn't necessarily start off that way, but over time that's what it became, and it became a deliberate decision. Like, okay, I want to do more of this. So it actually started off in 2019. I had a cousin who was working as a doctor at Badagry General Hospital in Lagos, and
Okay.
he left. He moved to the UK, like every Nigerian doctor does.
So,
And when he was leaving, he decided that he didn't just want to leave; that he wanted to at least uh, leave some kind of an impact for his
okay.
colleagues
Good.
who were still there, because there was a lot that was going wrong at that hospital. So he tried reaching out to the government, to the State Health Service Commission, to everybody ignored him. So as a last resort, because at the time I had started working as a columnist with Business Day. I wasn't doing investigative journalism yet, but I was writing
Okay.
opinion columns that everyone used to read. So he came to meet me one day and he said, "You're a journalist, right?" I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "Okay, I have a story that I think the world needs to know, and I think you can do it." So he gives me this story. He gives me access to his colleagues, so doctors, nurses, attendants, at the hospital. And it just so happened at the time, very fortunately, I was working on a project which was funded by the MacArthur Foundation. And so it
Okay.
was an investigative project. It was with an NGO called Rise Networks. So I was directing that project. I'd actually written a funding proposal and we were successful. And I was directing the project when this opportunity came. So two of them just kind of plugged into each other. So that
Perfect
became the
timing.
project. Yeah. So we went to Badagry. We filmed. Did some undercover filming. We spoke to people. We put everything together. So we created a documentary out of it, and then I did a written story. Um, in terms of like public reception, it didn't go that far. However, it got to the right ears. So because
Okay.
shortly after the story came out, then State Health Service Commission started carrying out unplanned inspections at the hospital. Some
A
people got
little bit too late,
fired.
right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, some good came of it, because so
True.
some of the
True.
issues at the hospitals, some of the issues that we described were like there was no diesel for the generator, so doctors were performing surgery using phone flashlights, for example.
Come
Those kinds
again.
of things.
Doctors were performing surgeries using
Phone
the
flashlights.
the flashlight of the phone.
Yes, yeah, that was happening.
Wow.
Yeah. The hospital pharmacy was constantly out of stock. So if you're going to be treated there, when you're coming, they will tell you that bring your own gloves, bring your own this, bring your own that.
It brings my mind back to a couple of years back, and we rushed someone to Ikeja General Hospital, and they told us we had to buy these buckets that
Yeah.
had like pads, and I was like, I screamed out
Yeah. That's
because
how it
to
works. Even
me,
though even though the hospital has a budget for these things, somehow
yeah,
it
that's what
never
I'm
has
saying. There
the
should be a budget.
there is a budget, but the budget goes missing. So
Wow.
if you are in that emergency situation, you're not going to start arguing this thing. You just want to save
No,
the
no,
doctor.
no, no, no.
So you buy it. You buy it. And
Wow.
that's what has been happening. So as a result of that story, oh yeah, and then something else that was terrible in that hospital, the death rate for women coming in to do cesarean section was 4 in 10.
Ooh.
So
But why
4 out of
Sicilian
every
though?
10.
No, no
So
proper.
no, like if you were coming to deliver through cesarean section, your chances of walking out of that room alive were 60%. There's a 4 in 10 chance that you're going to die.
But what do you
And
expect when you are using the flashlights to
it
probably look
wasn't even
for?
the funny thing is it wasn't even because of that. Because
Okay,
the doctors were like heroes. They would always find a way to make those
of
things
doing
work.
it,
The issue was that there was a specific brand of there's this thing that they give to it's a what's it called, a hormone. I think it's estrogen or something. I'm not sure what
okay.
what what hormone it is. They're supposed to inject it, and the hospital was using a cheap brand of that hormone.
Oh, to cut cost.
Exactly. So because of that, 4 in 10 women who were delivering through CS were
Oh my
dying in that
days.
hospital.
So people were just dying
for no
because,
reason.
yeah, basically for no reason,
For no
avoidable
reason.
deaths.
Completely avoidable. Completely avoidable. So this woman walks in, she's perfectly fine. The only thing is that she needs to deliver through CS for whatever reason. But apart from that, she's perfectly fine. There is no reason for her to die. And 2 hours later, she's dead. That's it.
Wow. David,
So,
David, 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 let's go straight to it. Who is to blame for this? I know there's an hierarchy. I know there's structure in place that have been put in place by, say, the state board of medicine and all that. But to you, when you're doing the investigation, who should be the number one person that they should be pointing the finger at?
well, the number one person in that context was always going to be the state commissioner of health, because that's where the buck stops. You know,
True.
on at the ground level, the number one person was the MD of the hospital, because this was someone who was basically
Simple. Yeah.
stealing the budget, right? But the thing is,
Yes.
even the MD has oversight, right? So you can't say that this MD is working under you and you are not aware of what he's doing, or you are
That's
not going to
such.
take an interest
Oh
in what
my
he's doing,
days.
or that the statistics coming out of that hospital, it took a journalist reporting it for you to take an interest in the fact that
Coming in
four
from
out of 10,
outside.
exactly, So what that just told me was that apart from all the issues with corruption and whatnot, the chain of command of government in Nigeria is fundamentally broken. The left
Okay.
hand does not know what the right hand is doing.
No.
Because
There's no flow.
if,
There's no system flow in
yeah,
place.
there's no system flow whatsoever. There's supposed to be a flow of data, information.
Yes, of course.
People are supposed to get assessed automatically. It's not supposed to be even like a political event. It's just supposed to be a normal procedural thing.
Exactly. I know. I know.
But it doesn't happen in Nigeria. So it takes an external person coming in to report that 4 out of 10 pregnant women doing CS delivery are dying in this hospital before you're even aware that there's such a statistic coming out of that place. So anyway, the story did some good. That death rate fell from 4 in 10 to 2 in 10. 2 in 10 is still
Okay.
way too many.
Way too
But
many. We shouldn't be having such.
exactly. But it did some good. The MD was supposed to get fired, but Nigeria being Nigeria, he went and brought
Ooh.
he
So
went and
David,
brought
no one took the bullet. Literally.
a few people under the MD were made like scapegoats. So there were a few doctors who weren't showing up to work and things like that. Those ones got. But the MD, who was actually the person responsible for it,
Yeah, the box stops was
he
unstable.
he went to meet the traditional ruler, but the Akran. But and that one came, and then they started playing politics. That
Oh my
it's been a long
days.
time because the MD is from Badagry, he's a local. So they now started using that
Okay.
politics. That it's been a long time. We've had an indigene who is the MD, blah blah blah. That
Okay.
it's
So
outsiders who want his job that are fighting against him. All that kind of rubbish. So he
so
kept
so so people were dying on the table on the premise that the current MD is the son of the soil,
exactly.
even though it's mismanaging the
Even though he's killing
little resources.
the people
Yeah,
there, but
the
you know
people
he's our
is a
son.
case is a case of the snake biting his tail. When the snake is biting his own tail, it's like you're trying to poison yourself. What are you trying to do?
Yeah, but
You're doing
the
yourself
axe
harm.
the axe is cutting down the trees, but the handle is made of wood.
It's
So
made of wood, yes. Oh my days. And
so that was
is he
actually
still
how
there?
it
Is the
all
man still
started.
there?
To I think after Ambode left office, I think
Okay.
the new governor brought in his own team. So I think they might have cleared him out because all
Just a
these
quick one,
positions
David.
they're all
Are they
they're all political anyway.
political appointees, or
Technically,
they
they are
rise through
not.
the ranks?
Technically, they're civil servants, but in Nigeria, the civil service is politicized. So
Yeah,
how
I
it's
know.
supposed to work is that everything that from PAMSEC up is political appointee, and then everything down is civil service. In practice, how it works in Nigeria is that by the time you even get to assistant director, that's already political.
Oh my
It's already
days.
political.
So it's
So
not you're not it's not on what you can do anymore.
No,
It's
it's not.
about it's
It's
about
who you
someone just,
know, which
yeah, someone
secret
just writing
society
your
you
name on the
belong
list
to.
and saying,
Yeah, exactly.
Dr. Kingbile, you're fine, you'll be fine, you go and
Yeah,
do that.
yeah.
Wow. Have
It's
you
a thing that there's one person who sit down somewhere in Ikoyi and say that, like, so there's a list of like people who are supposed to be promoted every year in the Lagos State Civil Service, and that
okay?
list has to pass through one person somewhere in Ikoyi,
Wow.
right? And this person
David,
will vet.
David, David,
There are
this
certain names that can never rise beyond a certain level. Like it's a thing that, for example, if you're on that list, and for example you're one of the people that are deemed as undesirables. So let's
okay.
say you're not you're not Yoruba, for example. So you're not from the southwest, but you're in the state civil service. There's a glass ceiling for you. Now, let's say you're even from Lagos, you're an indigene, but this person in Ikoyi considers you to be a threat. There's also a glass ceiling for you. That's how it
This
works, unfortunately.
for the
So
sake of people that might not know or have an idea of what you are referring to, for the sake of this podcast, which is, you know, we are not aligning to anybody. I'm not being sponsored by anybody. And for people that might not know, the person in this Ikoyi, in this context right now, are
mhm.
you speaking about the current president of Nigeria now?
That's exactly what I'm speaking about. Yes.
Okay. Just to clarify that,
Yes.
because I know I have a fair bit idea of who the president is and how he can have literally a hands-on grip on Lagos State and
Yeah.
environs and all
Yeah.
that. But okay, but let's not go there yet. Let's take it one
Yeah.
at a time. So the I'm more concerned a lot about the death rate and all that happened at the hospital. But have you gone there after? Have you by chance gone there?
So the unfortunate thing is that those improvements that I spoke about were temporary, because
Okay.
as I went last, I was made aware of the situation. I think it was sometime in 2022. It had reverted to the it had gone back to how it was.
Oh
So
my days.
this time, I don't even think it was the same MD who was there, but it had gone back to status quo. So apart from the fact that there's a there's an issue with the organizational structure, there's also a cultural issue
Yeah, true.
there,
True.
that for some reason it seems as if once there is a government institution in Nigeria and that government institution has a budget, the people who work in and around that government institution think that their primary job is how to steal that budget. That's it. Like the basic function of what a state is and what it should do, like service delivery, those things for whatever reason don't even factor at all. So like in countries like the UK, obviously there's plenty of corruption in the UK. We know that
Of
they also have contract scams. They have contract
we are we
fraud.
are we are well
You
aware.
know,
We're also aware of
the
someone's wife that's not been paying taxes for a while now.
exactly. There are
So
people who
it
they donate
happens.
they donate to the ruling party. They get contract. That
Of
thing is
course.
it happens everywhere.
Was
But
it last year that we had an issue of
yeah,
a party member going to China to get substandard
PPEs. Yeah,
PPEs?
yeah.
It happens. It's
Yeah.
all over the world
So
too.
it's not as if that these things are unique to Nigeria. But my issue in Nigeria is that everywhere else where this corruption happens, there's still that basic understanding that what you are doing is that you are skimming off the top. That's where the corruption is. You are skimming off the top. In
Okay.
Nigeria, you are not skimming off the top. You are taking the entire thing and chugging it down your throat.
Everybody just
That's
brings a
the
cutlass to just
yeah.
finish it off.
Yeah, because
Okay.
if you look at the amount of money that is in the Nigerian government's budget every year, there is enough money in the Nigerian government's budget every year to pay all of its civil servants on time and in full. That's like the
Easily.
most basic thing. That's the most basic thing.
Yeah.
I'm not even
Yeah.
talking about capital expense, just the recurrent. There's enough,
Just the
more than
normal
enough.
every monthly. Yeah.
And yet, without fail, you will hear that this one is civil servants in this state have been owed for 8 months. Pensioners have not been paid since 2006. This like it's not for lack of funds. The funds
It
are there,
is.
but there is
Yeah.
somebody will just decide that I want to steal it.
Yes, I know. And
And that's how,
we always have cases of ghost workers all the time,
yeah.
in the system. Because I remember when I was 7 years back, I was put to a local government, and every 29th, when we bring out the workers, list of workers, we know each other as coppers and the people that work at the local government. I think we're about maybe not up to 15. But when we bring out the payroll on the 29th, that list goes up to 80 or 90. So, and we don't see the rest of, but we know how it's done. It's sad, to be honest with you, but it is what it is. It is what it is. And I think I might just take it into looking at sending someone down to that hospital to just take a look and see how it is now, because I feel
Not much has
measures.
changed. I mean, they moved into this. Something else that I mentioned in the story was that the governor at the time was Akinwumi Ambode. So he came
Yes.
to the hospital actually, and
Ooh, nice.
they had this photo obsession. This was before the story came out. They had this
Okay.
photo obsession with, because they had built a new wing, a maternity wing of the hospital. Lovely building with nice artwork outside. But what they did not tell people when they came and did their photo op was that that building was a shell. There was nothing inside. It had not been equipped. So
Wow.
they came and did photo ops of an empty building. They didn't show any picture from inside. All the pictures were
Wow.
just outside. And they announced that they have built a new wing of Badagi General Hospital, which wasn't true. They had built a new building and painted the outside. And then when somebody was coming to visit, they hurriedly came and put windows to make it look as if the building was finished. It
David,
wasn't.
David, hold on, hold on. You're opening a door that after I thought normally the process of commissioning a building is after cutting off the tape, you go inside the building to definitely look and
So
inspect.
the trick that they used was that they didn't commission it. They just came and took photo ops. It was a photo op.
Okay.
So if you don't know what's going on, you would think they commissioned it. They didn't. They
So
just took pictures with a shine with a nice looking building.
this is it's I'm trying to laugh at the issue, but it's quite sad that a city governor would go for photo ops when he
Yeah,
knows how important, because I've been to Badagry a couple of times. I know the terrain a bit. So
yeah.
I expect the very best facilities. Because it's not so there are not so many hospitals there. So David, I can remember vividly about the issue about Akpabio and all that, about the woman that died. Do you in any way look back about on that issue and think, there might have been things you think, there might have been issues, there might have been, because basically I tried to wrap my head around all the issues, all the angles that you're trying to bring out then, and I had so many questions. I still have so many questions as regards the hotel, and all that. How was that particular issue resolved at the end of the day? Was it resolved? Did they reach out to
So
you? Was there
it's
a process
it,
that?
it absolutely was not resolved. What they did was they put out a threat, a legal threat, and then I said, please feel free to sue if you want to sue,
Of course,
and
of course, it's
and
everybody's legal right to do that.
and they never did.
Okay.
They never did.
In legal terms, that means you literally don't. You literally are not
Make of
available.
make of that what you will, but they never did.
Hey, even with
So
all that stories, I remember the tweet. Then it was a page
yeah,
turner because I
yeah,
kept
they
I kept
never
following
sued.
up to see. Yeah,
They never
they
sued.
never sued.
They never did.
Okay, that makes it interesting now, because I feel if you're clean and you're open about the whole issue, they should actually be looking to gun you down. Okay, so they never sued,
They never
and
did.
and up to now you still haven't gotten a letter from any of the solicitors. You
Apart
know,
from that initial threat, they never. That was the end of
initial
that.
initial Nigerian gragra.
That was it. However, what was also very interesting was that because the entire premise of my story was that this guy Frank Akpan, the main suspect,
Yes.
wasn't acting alone. That was the entire premise of my story. It was very interesting that what they then did was that they loaded the entire case on his head and gave him a death sentence so that he won't talk. So he's currently
Wow.
sitting on death row now. Which I guess in terms of in some way that is justice for the woman who was
Mm,
killed because he's the one that killed her. So that's
yes,
fine.
of
On the
course.
on the other hand, there are people he was working with and there are people backing him who are still walking free. And nothing happened to them.
Allegedly.
Well, allegedly, if that makes you feel better.
Allegedly.
But yeah.
Yeah, basically, allegedly. But we'll leave that. So, David, we've been talking about your life, your works life, and all that. I know you are an award-winning investigative journalist, and the last time we were talking about looking at switching to tech, and and all that, and it brought my mind back to Flutterwave, and I was like, I remember something happened with Flutterwave, and I was
Mhm.
like, okay, you switch it to tech, and with Flutterwave from, and this podcast basically likes to talk about how easy and not so easy it is to take your career. You've reached the pinnacle of a certain career and switching the problems you might have. For instance, I'm a product manager and I switched literally from marketing, w- went into front-end web development, which is coding, which is totally different from segmentation that we do in marketing, and going into product management. And I know it wasn't easy. I know some of the questions I was always getting was why make that switch? Is it profitable? Is it worth it? And the time therein. So for you, how was it? How was the switch like?
Well,
Because I know you
so
are coming from creative writing.
yeah, but in my case, I guess what made it easier was that I wasn't coming from a narrow field because
Okay.
you know, I like to joke that I've already had like four careers and this is like my fifth because the career most people know me for, which is investigative journalism, is literally like the fourth in the line. So when I was in the UK back then, when you knew
I think you
me,
worked at
yeah,
KPMG, right?
yeah, I did. I
Oh,
did. So I
okay.
actually started off my career in consulting. That didn't really work
Okay.
out because I had to come back to Nigeria and basically start again. When I came back to
Okay.
Nigeria, then I was working in PR, in marketing. And I was
Okay.
there from 2014 to about 2017. And then I got the
Okay.
opportunity to go into TV. So
Okay.
I was writing for a show called The Other News with Okay Bakasi, if you remember that show
Yeah,
on
I know. I
Channels
know. I'm
TV.
well aware.
Yeah. So I was there for 3 seasons, so just over a year. That was a whole, and it was a very successful career in itself. I got featured
Yeah,
in a
yeah. It was
Netflix.
really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I got featured in a Netflix documentary. I was mentioned in the New Yorker magazine. I got nominated
Yeah.
for an IVLP by the U.S. State Department. So that was already really good.
Good.
And then I went into like copywriting and like
Oh,
basically,
okay.
I set up my own agency and I was working
Okay.
with foreign clients, and I was doing very well, at least financially, by Nigerian standards. I mean,
Of
anyone who is
course.
pulling in, if you're pulling in $2,000-3,000 a month in Nigeria, I mean, you're not doing
I
badly.
think that's even above. That's way
Yeah,
above the average.
yeah, you're not doing badly. So I was very okay, and then I got the opportunity to start doing investigative work, and I jumped at it because it's something that I really wanted to do. And even though it wasn't as financially rewarding as what came before it, but there were other perks that came with it too because I
Okay.
felt as if for the first time the work that I'm doing is actually making a difference in the world because up
You're
until that point
justified with what you're
yeah,
doing.
because up until that point it always felt as if the entire point of working is to collect a paycheck or to submit an invoice at the end of
True.
the
Every
month.
month. Yes.
But for the first time, it felt like you do a story and somebody's life changes positively because of that story. There's no way to quantify that. It feels very gratifying. So, but the thing is, I right from the outset, I was always very honest with myself. I said that this is a career you do for 4 or 5 years, and then you
And
give it,
just
and then you
step back.
move on.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Step away from it. Yeah. So.
So, and I did it for exactly 4 years. So 2019 to 2023. So
Okay.
from I think the point when I knew that okay, I have reached the end and it's time for me to go. Like the ovation is at its loudest. I need to step away. I think it was in August last year. This was so. If I don't know if you read my new book, but
I could
this
always
was
send you my
mentioned.
address. You could always send it over.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
So this was mentioned, I think, in the final chapter in very great detail, actually. How after I got into trouble with the intelligence community in Nigeria
Community, yes.
for publishing something that was very highly classified, which might have contributed to stopping a planned invasion of Niger, and then I became an enemy of state. And they tried to abduct me in Accra, and
Wow.
I ended up
I
having to
think I read somewhere about you saying they sent a jet over to
yeah,
Ghana to
yeah.
come abduct you and all
So
that.
it
And I
was
was like,
the
wow,
National Intelligence Agency, the NIA, led by Ahmed Rufai Abubakar. They wanted my head. So
wow.
and they still want my head. So I
Obviously, you can't tell me your sources of how you were able to get such classified information, but what was going through your head when you got such information and
the
when you
only
decided to put it
well
out?
for me the most important thing at that time was if this invasion goes ahead, all of us in the West African sub-region were all cooked. This is not
Yeah,
going to end
true.
well for any of us.
It will definitely
You know,
have its ripple effects.
yeah, like in ways you can't even begin to even imagine. So the most important thing is this thing must not happen. And then bear in mind that this was an illegal order because under Nigerian law, for a president to deploy the military outside of Nigeria's borders, he must get approval from the Senate.
Okay.
So the
So basically,
president
who
now
was
sends
issuing
a secret order, secretly mobilizing the army to go and attack neighboring countries, so that by the time it becomes public knowledge, the war has already started, and then you can't pull out again. So
but no one
he was
in the
trying to
war.
front run the National Assembly, which is very illegal. Why would you do that? You know, and then these are not chess pieces on a board we're talking about. These are people's husbands, fathers, brothers. These are
Their
lives.
lives. Yeah.
You know. So at that point, all I was thinking about was the most important thing is anything I can do to stop this. I want to. I wasn't thinking about myself at all. I wasn't thinking about the consequences on the personal level. I wasn't thinking about any of that. All I was like, this needs to go out. I didn't even wait. Like what a journalist would do in that situation is that he would write like a 300-word story about it and then put it out. I couldn't even wait. I just went to my Twitter handle and I just tweeted the
Just put it
picture.
out
This was
there.
happening. Oh, this man wants to send our military there. Oh, please. Oh, and
Wow.
yeah. So
The amount of lives
then
that have been
the
saved through that.
well, we'll probably never know. But the important thing is, you know, it had the effect that it had. However, what I didn't predict was the extent to which the backlash would make my life complicated because it really complicated a lot of things for me last year. Like,
Okay.
I didn't think that they were going to go to the extent
Of trying
of
to abduct
trying
you.
to, not even that, trying to lean on the Ghanaian government to cancel my Ghanaian passport because they tried to do that, which was when I was forced to put out that video, basically begging Nana Akufo-Addo, please don't let them cancel my, revoke my
Wow.
passport. Yeah, like I didn't think we're going to go to that extent because, and the reason I didn't think we're going to go to that extent is that that's like those are diplomatic channels that are only used in the most serious circumstances. When, for example, maybe the leader of Boko Haram is hiding in Ghana or something, that's when you want to engage with Ghanaian government like
Basically,
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's some.
not a journalist. You understand?
It's way too high profile
I didn't think I
to.
was that important. Honestly, I really didn't think I was that much of a priority to anyone. I mean, I've always known that I irritated them, but I didn't think I was actually that dangerous to them, or they considered me to be that dangerous. So that
But
was a bit of like
then
an eye-opening moment for me.
he also
Like,
tweeted the
okay,
Guinean passport of the president too,
oh, I've lost count of the number, the number
because
of,
I remember that and I was like,
yeah,
okay, where did
yeah.
David see this? Because basically each
Oh,
person's passport is.
I'd actually had it for a while, but sometimes
Oh,
the funny thing is that sometimes information is more useful when its release is timed. So
yeah,
sometimes
true.
it's as much about the timing as it is about
It has to align
just
with the
putting it
right
there.
time for it to. go
Yeah,
out to the public.
yeah, for it to
Yeah.
have the maximum effect. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, when so by the time it got to that point when I couldn't even fly out of Ghana because my source actually told me, the person who told me that there's a jet on the way to Accra right now. They're coming to pick you up. He said, make
Wow.
sure that when you're leaving Ghana, don't use the airport. Don't fly. Use the road. So I couldn't even leave Ghana by air. So I had to get a road vehicle going to Aflao. That's the border with Togo. This is all in my book,
Okay.
by the way. Then I got to Togo, and then I had to book a flight from Lomé going to Addis Ababa, so that because the only way to get out of Togo is with Ethiopian Airlines, and Ethiopian always connects
Ethiopia.
with
Yeah, I know that's the only.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it connects
Wow.
with Addis. So if you want to get anywhere, you have to go to Addis first, and that's how and then I spent some time in Nairobi, and I thought, okay, things have calmed down here. And I was observing. And next thing I know, I'm getting another call. They are trying to cancel your Ghanaian passport. To they are like, what is this?
Wow.
What is going on? And what made that so incredibly problematic for me was that at that point, I was entirely I'm no longer dependent on that passport as much as I was then. But at that point, I
Okay.
was entirely dependent on that passport. So if that passport had been revoked, my life would have been
Yeah.
complicated in so many ways. So someone asked me the other day that if you could tell somebody who wants to follow in your footsteps that what is the danger that they should be aware of.
Yeah.
The number one danger, in my opinion, the number one danger they should be aware of is not even that somebody will try and kill you. Number one danger is that
Okay.
one one man in a pot belly and agbada or kaftan sitting in one office in Abuja, all the way in Abuja, wherever you are in the world, that man can just open his laptop and complicate your life for you.
Wow.
Like the
I didn't
state,
know the
a
why
country, a country has so much power to complicate your life
and
for you.
resources.
Yeah, it
It's a,
has so much ability. Let me give you an example.
okay.
Up till now, wherever it is, because my job involves travel,
Oh
so
yeah.
I attend events in in Naples, Thessaloniki. I travel around Europe a lot. Every airport I go to, anywhere in the world, there's never a time when I just pass through immigration. They look at my passport, look at me, stamp it. No, there's always a whole thing. Look at passports,
Oh.
look at me, tap something on the computer, look at me again, tap, 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 look at me, make a call, please step aside, start asking me questions, go through my bag,
Wow.
ask me questions again before they eventually. It's everywhere I go in the world. It doesn't matter which continent it is, it's the same
Do-
thing.
does that mean they put you
And
like on an international watch list?
at this point, only God knows because I've gone as far as trying to inquire from Interpol. Like, is it that
Yeah.
I'm on a list somewhere?
Yeah.
Apparently, I'm not on an Interpol list. Apparently, I'm not. So, but clearly, I'm on
They're
some
not a
kind of
list
watch
somewhere.
list or database or something. Who knows what they have done? Where they maybe they have put my name on the terrorism watch list or something. Who knows? Who knows? So that's what I mean when I say one man in an
I
agbada
don't
in Wuse or Garki can just sit down,
wake
and you will be all the way in Helsinki or Joburg or wherever you are. This man will just tap a few keys on his laptop and complicate your life beyond belief. You won't believe
but
how
but
your life will start to become complicated.
but if we have such resources and time on our hands, why are we not using it to look for Boko Haram, you know, Boko
You have to
Haram,
ask them.
how would I say it, financiers? Are we not looking at ways of trying to stop oil thefts? Because basically, this sounds like a great deal of resources on their hands
Yeah, at their disposal, yes.
at
And
their disposal, and they are not
what you learn from it is that the Nigerian state itself is a criminal organization. Because
true.
if there's so much crime and criminality going on under its nose, and it has all this capacity to tackle it, and it's
Yes,
not doing anything about it, that can only imply then that it's deliberately not doing anything about it, which would then mean that it's actually collaborating with whether it's the terrorists, whether it's the people stealing oil, whatever it is. None of this is happening without government participation. So the Nigerian
does
state
this mean
itself is a criminal entity, it's a criminal enterprise.
does this mean that there's probably like a cabal that is inside the system, inside the government itself, that is acting on its own.
I
All
won't even
this,
call it a cabal. I won't even call it a cabal
okay,
at this point. I think the root and branches of the entire Nigerian state have become criminal. Maybe once upon a time it was a cabal. I don't think it's that anymore. I don't think
okay.
it's just
So
a power within a power. I think the entire thing is
the
diseased.
whole structure itself.
Yeah, the entire thing is sick at this point. I don't see where the redemption for that system is going to come from.
Wow. This brings to mind all the information we got during the last presidential elections leading towards now, and the amount of information that we had at our disposal to make up our mind on who to vote for. And this, the issue of credibility, the and all this. But for me, it still stems from the average Nigerian. The average, what you've done, looking at it, the average Nigerian is not willing to sacrifice themselves for the greater good, in my own opinion, though. And when you look at the issue that you talked about, the hospitals and all that, and a clear case of stealing the resource, the meager resources on hand for such hospitals that should go round, and using cheaper versions and all that. I think what do you think? Don't you think it comes down to, it is our people, in Yoruba they say kòkòrò tó ń jẹ̀fọ́ ara ẹ̀fọ́ ló wà.
Yeah,
Kòkòrò tó ń jẹ̀fọ́ ara ẹ̀fọ́ ṣáà ní ṣan. Won't we wash away the kòkòrò away from the ẹ̀fọ́? Won't we wash away?
yeah,
You understand what I'm saying? So what
yeah,
do you think? Because I feel the problem comes down to we as Nigerians not willing to say, for instance, look at cases of cost of prices of goods right now in Nigeria right now, on how they've
yeah,
gone up. And I was speaking with someone, and the woman selling pomo said dollar is high. That's why pomo is expensive. And I'm not an economist, but to me, the nobody is ready to take a. What do you think about this? What's your own perception about this?
So I don't know about that last example you gave because whether whether or not she imposed the former, the price of the exchange rate still does in fact have an effect on her bottom line due to things
Yeah,
like transportation, fuel, and whatnot. But
of course.
the wider point, which is that there's more of like a general problem or a cultural issue. Yes, I completely agree with that. I think um, and I'm not going to make any excuses for Nigerians here,
True,
because
true.
I think normally the prefix is always as a result of decades of living under the military. People have become desensitized, yada yada yada. But the reason I don't subscribe to that school of thought anymore is that there are other African countries that went through similar things. Ghana also had decades of military dictatorship,
True.
and yet
Was
The
this man's
Ghanaian way
name?
of
Yeah,
yeah, flight little Nigeria Rawlings. And yet the Ghanaian way of
Legends.
doing things is very different. Which is not to say that Ghana is this great, fantastic country. It's not. But I mean, I've lived extensively in both countries, so I'm qualified to make
But
that
they have
comparison.
oil now. How
But
how how
they
do you
have
think
they have they
they
have
have oil
gas.
now? What do you think?
They have gas, not oil. They have
Oh,
gas,
they have
and
gas, not oil.
yeah, and it's not being that well explored or exploited. So
Okay.
in economic terms, they're not pulling up any trees. But the
Okay.
point is that I mean, even just interacting with the Nigerian civil service and the Ghanaian civil service, you can already see that there's a very clear difference. Let me give you an example, which is from my book. When I
Okay.
was getting in 2022, I was getting a Ghanaian driver's license, right? And you know how it is when you go to in Lagos when you want to get a driver's license, you go to the MVAA right from the door before you come down from your car. Someone can basically get your license for you. They just need your passport photograph, your bio data. You don't need to enter the building. Just come and say. In fact, you don't even need to even go. Get an agent's number on WhatsApp. Send your bio data and your passport photograph. They can even bring the passport to your. They can even bring the license to your office. Come and meet you. You know that's how it is in Nigeria. There's nothing like driving tests, nothing like that in Ghana. So I got to the DVLA. right? And there was also a tout who came to meet me, and so I assumed that it's just like Nigeria. So I paid him the bribe and everything.
Okay.
And then we go upstairs and then we enter this room. He leads me into this room where there are computers. And then he tells me to sit down in front of one of them. And I'm looking at like theory test, driving question. I'm looking at him, he's looking at me. I'm looking at him, he's
Nice,
looking at me.
nice. I didn't pay for this one.
And then it just dawns on me that, oh, whatever bribe I've paid doesn't mean that these people are
You
going
will
to
still not go through
allow.
the process.
Yeah, exactly. You will still go through the process. It's just that you are making it faster. That's all by paying
Okay.
that bribe. But it's not as if in Nigeria a goat can get a driver's license if it can pay the money.
You,
In Ghana,
David,
if whether you have all the money or not, they will not allow a goat to drive their car. You will do the sight test, you will do the theory test, and you will do the practical test before they will give you their license. So
David,
there's a civilizational difference
it's
between the
like
way Ghanaians do things and the way Nigerians do things.
of
you can't use the military as an excuse because they also went through the same military dictatorship.
yes, they also yes, true.
Yeah,
David,
for as long as we did.
what you're saying about the driver's license is funny because basically for years for my driver's license back then in Nigeria, on a piece of paper you just write your name, your full name, your phone number, and then you get a passport photograph with a red background, and I write my name at the back with my phone number and sign. And that served me for a long time.
That's it.
That
That's
served me for a
it.
long time. And when they introduced the test and all that, I just made a call to an agent, and my driver's license came in 2 weeks later. And
That's
it's
it.
compared to the UK, yeah, where I am right now. Um, I know how many people I
It takes
know.
six
How
months. 6 months to get a
yes,
license here.
I have friends that even failed the test. I have friends
Yeah,
that failed the test, the theory test, the practical test. Even people that have been driving in Nigeria for 15 years, they take the practical test and they still fail. Shout out to Okpe for failing 3 times. You're my friend, but I'm saying shout out to you on that. But that's because there's a structure in place. That is why they believe it. You hardly see people line up except at embassies. Every other place nobody wants to line up. You get what I'm saying? I
yeah.
think for me, moving forward, I think we Nigerians must change our orientation about how we do everything. I know it's all over, top to bottom, but David, you've how will I say you've reacted to it and you've put out a positive change. But I'll ask you, what would you want to be remembered for? Before you answer, think of the part that you were on before, which was the easy, chilling, normal, boy, normal guy lifestyle, just chilling and having a good time with your profession, and going to the extreme where you are being chased about by the Nigerian government. And it's, for me, I think I'll be scared. For me, I think it's something I'll be very, 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 very scared about. But looking back at it on how you've been able to accomplish what you've done so far, what do you think you want to be remembered for?
So, first of all, regarding the fear, I think the last time I felt that general fear you described was maybe 2017. When
Okay.
what the event that ended that fear for me was when my dad died. Because that
Oh,
was
okay.
that was one of the most traumatic things that has ever happened to me in my entire life.
Okay.
And the outcome of his death is what sort of hardened me because what I came to understand was that first of all, unlike what I had been taught all my life, Nigeria will never respect you. Doesn't matter how much money you make, doesn't matter how hard you've worked, doesn't matter how much you think you've insulated yourself and your family. When Nigeria happens to you, it does so in the most disrespectful manner possible. Right? My dad wasn't some guy off the street. Right? He wasn't. Like
Okay.
you should have an idea of who he was. Right? He
I
wasn't just some
definitely have.
random. Yeah, he wasn't just
I
some random guy. So if the what ended up killing him, it was like it was a survivable, a partial stroke. and it was very survivable. Very, very. He would have made a full recovery. Right. By the end of that week, he would have been sitting up and talking. He would have been fine. He might still be alive today. I might still have him
Yes.
today because he was 66. He wasn't an old man. And very randomly, just because of some silly little coincidence of events, those stupid bad luck events that Nigeria
I
pushes
know.
on. So there's no, for whatever reason, in a city like Lagos, 21 million people, there's no ambulance available in one of the most easily accessible parts of
Tell
the
me
city,
about that.
which is
Tell me
like
about that.
10. This place is like 8 minutes drive to Bagada General Hospital, one of the largest general hospitals in Africa. And somehow there's no ambulance available. Like
No,
for
no.
like 2 hours we're talking. And then we can't carry him outside because all the tiles, they're all marble, it's raining, somebody's gonna sleep. We can't
Yeah,
really do it
definitely.
ourselves. I tried to go private. There's no that's also when I learned that it's not everything that there's a private alternative for in Nigeria. There's some things you can't you can't buy your way out of,
So basically, with
right?
your money, you can't steal.
Exactly. So and then randomly I he was on the floor and I was literally watching the life leave him and he died in front
Wow.
of me at my feet. Like he died I saw it happen. Like this was someone that I've known. I was 27 at the time. Like I've known this man all my life. This man has given me everything. Like where he literally gave me his name because he's also David. Right.
Oh,
This
okay.
man is this man was like he was my superhero. And all of a sudden, randomly, for no real reason, he just died. And it was as if,
And something that could have been avoidable.
I tried to pursue the matter. Like, why wasn't there an ambulance available? I tried to push it with the Lagos State Ambulance Service. I tried to demand an answer, and they kept tossing me around, talk to this person, talk to that person. And eventually, after like 2 months of getting tossed around, when I eventually spoke to someone who seemed to have some authority, he basically told me, not in so many words, but basically told me that now you be the first to lose your papa.
What?
Something along those lines. He didn't
Yeah, I
say it
get
like
it.
that,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
he
definitely.
essentially
But
said, go to court.
it's business
That's
as
basically
usual
what
for
he
them.
said. If you feel that there's any way that this, if you are dissatisfied, you feel free to seek legal redress, which is a very polite way
Wow.
of saying fuck you.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And what that did to me was that it made me understand that first of all, that fear you've always had that, oh, if you talk out of line, if you pick a fight with power, pick a fight with authority in Nigeria, then you're going to lose the privilege that you have. First of all, that privilege you think you have, you don't even have it.
You know,
You don't really have it because Nigeria would you it showed me in the most disrespectful way possible that I was nothing. My dad was nothing. You are nothing. So just because you live in this big house in Ogudu area, you have all these nice cars, you travel, you have this deluxe lifestyle, you think that makes you somebody, you are nothing.
no.
You are
Wow.
absolutely nothing. Nigeria showed me that. So that's where the fear went to because from that moment I realized that you're already dead. So if you're afraid of dying, it's pointless because you're already dead. You're already living inside a graveyard. You just didn't
True.
know. But now you know. So that was the
Wow.
first. That was where the fear went to. Now, what would I like to be remembered as? I would like to be remembered as somebody um who was able to unplug from the. If you like, this is going to sound very cliche, but this is someone who was able to unplug from the matrix and actually
You're able
take
to
a
see the
look,
light.
take a look at who is that, like what is actually happening here, and then try to do something about it. I think that's one of the markers I think of a a human being as against an AI or a robot. Like
True.
the
True.
the core of what makes a human being is desire for freedom, right? The desire for
Okay.
self determination, independence. Being able to think for oneself and being able to draw one's own conclusions. I feel
Okay.
like the world that exists today is a world where so many people, for so many reasons, are just going through the motions of life. They don't have a single original thought upstairs. And if they do, they're too afraid to express those thoughts. They have a lot of things they wish would happen or they wish they could do, but they don't have the courage or the bravery or the audacity to even
To
attempt it.
take
So
that
I
step.
want,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to be remembered as the guy that had the audacity. So I was talking to Chude the other day because I recorded an episode with him on with Chude, and I said something similar. I said the entire point of all of this, when I shut down my agency and I went full time into investigative journalism, I basically took a huge pay cut, basically. But the entire point of doing all of that was simply to prove that it's possible. That's all. I just wanted to prove a point. So going back to the question you asked right at the start, that what is the most misunderstood thing about me? So people always have this very deep belief that there must be there's something I'm not telling you. There's another reason somewhere. Somebody's using me for something.
That is it. Never
No,
trusting Nigerian. We
my
hardly trust.
reason, my reason for doing everything that I wanted to do is that I was trying to prove a point. I decrease. That's it. I wanted to prove a point that
Yeah, true.
if there are 200 million Nigerians who are willing to be sheep, there is one who is
Person that
willing to
is
be a
really
wolf. There is
true.
one. And if there is one, then that means that potentially all of us are capable of it. It just means that all of us are making the wrong choices. Right?
You
So
know,
even if it's just one person who chose to be different, that means we can all do something different.
of
So
course.
maybe not in our maybe our own generation is already done for. Maybe there's no hope for us. But maybe our children or our children's children will be able to refer to those examples and be like, okay, this is something that we can hold on to. This is an example. The same way we sort of maybe in the entertainment space now, the way Fela is looked on as like the godfather or the
Yeah, true.
progenitor of Nigerian
Yeah, of course.
entertainment.
Of
Even
course.
though in his time when he was alive, he was viewed as
It
a
was an
renegade.
yeah, it was an
He was,
outcast.
yeah, he was very much an outcast. But now he's
He's
an
older.
icon, he's a legend.
Yeah, he's older now.
So that's actually how I hope to be remembered. So I'm not surprised that right now I'm also a renegade. I'm literally an outcast. I'm
Mhm.
almost literally stateless because as far as Nigeria is concerned, I'm no longer a Nigerian citizen. They revoked my passport and everything. Good luck to them for that. But in another generation or two, if Nigeria still exists, then
Mm.
the value of what I did will be known.
So you want history to remember you as the man that questioned the system, nearly got killed at it, but never gave up. You never gave up.
Close
Did,
to close to it.
did you,
Like
am I?
maybe so maybe not so much the like so for me it's more of it was possible to even look the
Question.
system eyeball to eyeball. It's even because many Nigerians don't even realize that it's possible. Many Nigerians are so utterly terrified of
Of even taking that step.
the Nigerian establishment. They're so terrified of it. These people are like 15 feet tall to most Nigerians. And I'm like, no, they're not. You understand? Maybe it's because I also had the advantage of having physically grown up among these people. Like I went to
Okay.
school with their children, we vacationed in the same holiday spots, we ate in the same restaurants, we dated each other. So I am me, I am them and they are me. You understand? So
Of
I'm
course.
able to tell that these people are not 15 feet tall. These people don't have any special intelligence anywhere. There's nothing. The
There's
only
level.
thing, the only thing that they have that most Nigerians don't have, well, there are two things they have. Number one thing is audacity. They dare. The number two thing is uniformity of purpose. They cooperate. That's it. Those are the two things that Nigerians generally do not have. The ability to dare and the ability to cooperate and do things in large groups.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to prove that these people that you are so scared of, that's literally all they have going for them. They're a bunch of dumbasses who have some measure of self belief and who have been able to come together as a collective to do something. Now, that something happens to be negative for you, but it's positive for them.
Of course.
But if you can flip it and make it such that you become the one who band together against these people, there's like 10 of them and there's like 100,000 of you.
True.
So, the day Nigerians decide that they want to take their society, their country, their culture back,
Hmm.
the day Nigerians should decide. Because if we think about it logically, How many people have power in Nigeria? How many are they up to
Very
10,000?
few. The percentage is very, very small compared to the general populace, which
Let's say you
is
even include let's say you even include the armed forces. So let's include the whole military, intelligence services, police, everything. You are still not that's still not up to 600,000 people
the numbers
in
are,
total.
yes,
That's not of the population of Agege. You understand? And that's one district in one city in one state out of 36 plus FCT. So the day Nigerians decide that they have had enough and that they want to take their country back from this tiny, very small group
fraction,
of
very, very
people
tiny. Yeah,
that uses them like farm animals, the day Nigerians decide that they've had enough, nobody's going to tell them what to do.
true. Oh, David, you've been an absolute delight about that. Because when I was following all your stories, for years I've been trying to question allocations being given to my local government back then in Nigeria. And what the day I was able to see the figures that come into just the local government and how the accounts are not being audited, how the money flies off the accounts, and how the local government chairman lives extremely
Chop and
lavishly.
clean out.
It's just sad, and um, it's just sad, and it brings a tear to my eye because I know it's a circle that keeps going on and on and on. But I believe one day we'll get there. Maybe during our children's children, we'll be able to say, "Oh, the people, this what is happening now is as a result of the fight of people like David Hundeyin that took that one step that made the ripple effect that has, you know." So that's why I believe time will judge on every one of us on how good we've been, how bad we've been. So on this note, I'll end this and say, David, I know you travel everywhere. If you had to pick, if you had to pick and say, looking back, 18 years, you're 18 when you're 18 years old, do you think all this could have happened? You fighting a battle with the Nigerian state, coming up tops and becoming award winning and being this 18-year, because I know definitely we knew each other then. So 18 years, when you're 18 years old, do you think all this could have happened?
I probably couldn't have visualized it then, but the truth is that if there was someone who was going to be who could have done this kind of thing, it would probably have been me. Because I've always had a very strong rebellious streak. I mean, I studied creative writing for goodness sake. You
True.
used to there were a whole group of you guys at whole uni who just didn't understand what the hell I was doing. You just
We did, because basically I think back then we were more preoccupied with things I cannot see as
all of you were doing business admin, law,
we're doing
business admin
marketing,
law,
we're
yeah,
doing
that's
insurance
all
and
you
the
guys were
rest.
doing.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then I was the one who was in humanities and I was doing
I
creative
was,
writing and media. What the hell is
you know,
that? You
I
know?
just used to look at you and say, damn, this guy has some heavy balls to go in that direction.
Some
But
people thought maybe my dad is some money bag or something because who the hell sends their child to the
to
UK
do,
to go
to
and
do
study
creative,
creative writing? You know what are you going to do with that degree? You know,
exactly.
but I've always had that very strong rebellious streak that
Hmm.
I'm going to do something that hasn't been done before and I'm going to prove that it can be done. Right. So
Okay.
even my parents at that point when I was 18, they were already tired of me because I'd already showed them like I had a hell of a rebellious streak. So
You
everyone
build
else in
an
my family,
unshakable mark.
if you check, there are five kids. All the other four kids, they all did the conventional stuff. So like the oldest, she became an engineer.
Hmm.
My brother became a doctor. Then my sister was a banker, and then the youngest is a stockbroker. And there's
Wow.
just this odd one out who say he wants to be a writer. What does that mean?
What do you do?
You know, what do you do with that? I remember when I was 17, my dad used to call me. And so, this thing you say you want to study, so you mean that when you finish, you are you going to go to punch newspaper? Or what do you want to do with this thing? He genuinely didn't understand it. That David, you have a hell of a brain on you. Why do you want to? Because I told him I wanted to study journalism. why do you want to become a journalist, for God's sake?
Okay.
What is in it? What is there for you? He didn't understand it. And in fact, because he didn't understand it, till today I'm still proud of it. I'm the only one in my family to ever attend a Nigerian university. Because I spent 8 months at Abia University
Oh,
in North
okay.
Canada, right? Till today, I'm the only one out of all the five kids. I'm the
No,
only
that
one
doesn't
who has
count.
ever attended
That
university in
doesn't count. You
Nigeria.
have
No, but I'm saying the reason that happened was because my parents
David,
said,
we won't
"Uncle,
count
why they are dead
Igbenedion
body."
as we won't count Igbenedion as part of the Nigeria. Okay.
But the point
So
I know where you're going with this, but the point I'm making, the point I'm making is that no, what normally what would have happened is that as soon as I finished my A levels, I'd have gone to the UK or
okay.
somewhere else, like all my other siblings did. But my parents said, "No way, we're not going to spend £9,000 a year so that you can go and study
Yeah.
writing. It's not possible." So the next best thing was, oh yeah, just throw him to one private university in Nigeria, find one place for him, go and study mass comm there.
Fair
So
enough.
that's how I ended up at Benedion. And it didn't work out there because even when I was there, I led a departmental rebellion against the HOD because the
Ooh.
guy who was the HOD, some guy called Mande, he used to make us call him Dr. Mande. This man didn't have a master's degree. He was
Wow.
running
So
his
where's
master's
that
program
coming
at
from?
Uniben while lecturing at Benedict and calling himself doctor. This man was a fraud, and we got to find out. And I
Legends.
was the only one who wanted to make a ruckus out of it. I wrote a letter to the VC. There was a whole thing, and then they
Wow.
wanted to kick me out of the school. And then my parents got tired that this boy, oh yeah, oh yeah, one loss UK, one loss UK. And
Easy.
so I guess right from that time, as it has been in my body. So if you had told me when I was 18 that this is how your life would turn out,
Fair enough.
maybe I wouldn't have been able to visualize it, but at the same time, I wouldn't have disbelieved it because I'd have thought, well, if there's someone who is crazy enough to do this, it's probably
Oh,
me.
okay.
So
Inbuilt. So you had it inbuilt in you right from the get go.
yeah, that was
Perfect.
the I
That's
guess.
fine. David,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.